I'm Dr. Mark Pitstick. Welcome to video number 2 of this free mini course, which is entitled 11 Keys to Helping Yourself, Others, and Our World. Now, if you haven't watched video number 1 yet, please do so. You can learn more about me, my training, experience, and outreaches at soulproof.com/about. So the 11 keys to helping yourself, others, and our world begins with the first, know who you are. And wise cultures across antiquity have made clear this. The Temple of Delphi in ancient Greece said, know thyself, because it appears to your limited brain and sense organs that you are a mortal person, a physical being who dies, who's separate from others, and who is separate from Creator, and none of that is true. So it's important to remember that you can't solely rely on your senses and brain, and that's why the saying, there's more to life than meets the eye. In fact, you and everyone else are timeless beings of energy, consciousness. This human form that we identify so much with, associate with, is a very small percentage, much less than 1% of your real self, your totality of being. So knowing this explains a lot of seeming mysteries and inequities on our planet. And the more you know who you are and live accordingly, the more you experience peace, joy, hope, compassion, gratitude, and other higher energies, emotions, and ways of being. And as we discussed in video number 1, then that sets the stage for every aspect of your life getting better and you sharing your greatest gifts. So really, really important. Now, one of the benefits of knowing more who you are and expanding your senses, which we'll talk about in this course, is that you'll likely have a keener perception of post-material persons. Again, the term Dr. Schwartz and I favor for those who have passed on, and also post-material pets. So we're in the material world on Earth, they're in the next phase of life, which we call post-material. So the more you choose these higher energies, emotions, and ways of being, the more you'll be on the same wavelength as them and can sense them until you pass on and have a more full-out reunion. So for more information about this topic, know who you really are, see articles, and all the articles again are free and at soulproof.com/articles. Article number 15, The Nature of Humans. Number 31, What is a Post-Material Person? And number 118, Who and What Are You Really? Also, my life review technique expands your understanding about who you really are. So you might have heard of the life review. This is considered one of the most transformative aspects of the near-death experience, where people, when they're in the light, they're clinically dead, they experience having a life review very quickly, kind of like watching a movie of your life and seeing both the good sides and the bad sides. Now, this isn't punitive by any means, it's educational, because it helps you realize how you could have done better, what amends you need to make, and how you can do better in the future. Well, this and most all my techniques involve deep relaxation, quieting the brain, because remember, the brain perceives much less than 1% of reality, but it thinks it knows everything. So it needs to be quieted, and then guided imagery to help you recreate what if you were to pass on today and you had your life review. What would it be like? Dr. Ken Ring, Professor Emeritus at the University of Connecticut, did research and found that the life review technique under deep relaxation and guided imagery can be just as impactful as what near-death experiences report. And he interviewed as many people who had NDEs as almost anybody on the planet. and he gave me permission to use this technique. So the other thing about using this technique is it expands your sense of who you really are. It helps loosen your identification with this body, which again is just as relatively unimportant as a sweater you wore when you were in grade school. And again, get to know your real self more. So you can learn more about the Life Review technique in article number 45 and the Life Review in general, article number 45 at soulproof.com. The second key to helping yourself, others in our world, is to know the great news. And the term the great news is what Dr. Gary Schwartz and I chose for 10 evidence-based indications about the nature of reality, that is, how life is set up. Historically, most people have suffered needlessly because of wrong information. It's half true or totally false, and yet they believe those teachings, primarily from religions, because that was their job, right? To teach people about how life is set up, what is real, what is important, how to best live while you're on earth, what happens after you die, and so on. But so much of that was misinformation. So no sense being angry about it, because some of that misinformation was purposely misdirected to control people and perform a walletectomy on them. But now in 2024, we know much more about the big picture of life, and it's all great news. So these 10 items are based on scientific and or clinical evidence research, plus the experiential evidence, that is based on firsthand experiences many people have had, and religious and spirituality views that corroborate it. So Dr. Schwartz and I made this list of the great news for our book, Greater Reality Living, and also to include in the book for youth called The Big Picture of Life, which we wrote with Kata Mapes, who has dual masters in childhood education and counseling. The great news is that you and everyone else are beings of consciousness, energy, who continue to live after your earthly body dies. And to learn the scientific, clinical, and experiential evidence for that, see articles number 160 and 115. Next, that you can interact with your post-material loved ones, people and pets, now and after you pass on, articles number 9 and 28. That you're an integral, infinite, eternal, and beloved part of source energy, now and always. So many people were taught erroneously that they only get to heaven or they only get to be with Creator if they believe and do certain things, when in fact, that's how life is set up. Many near-death experiences come back and say that. We each are one with the One and part of Source right now. So that's huge news. And you can see article number 13 to learn more about what is God really. Next, that you receive guidance, assistance, and love from angels, guides, master teachers, another way I call spiritual support team. To learn more about that, see article number 73. You are sacredly interconnected with all people, animals, and nature. And of course, the more we know that, the more we act accordingly. Love our neighbor as thyself, no matter what the trivial outward differences or differences in opinion. We're all one big family. We're all children of God. We're all interconnected. Next item of the great news is that you have special purposes for having this earthly experience right now. It's not a random, chaotic thing. You just wound up here by mistake. You as a soul chose to come here, volunteered, signed up for special reasons. And the more you're sharing your special purposes, your greatest gifts, the more this life, this earthly experience makes more sense, is more fulfilling and joyful and peaceful. Article number 21. Next, and this is a fun one, that you, your real self, and I'm not just talking about your earthly body, but the totality of your energy may manifest in different time-space realities simultaneously. So this gets into multi-location. And for example, Dr. Newton, in his Life Between Lives research, found that on average, humans only need about 40% of their total energy, their soul energy, life force, to manifest in an earthly incarnation. Well, that means the other 60% or so is in other times and places, experiencing life, growing, learning, or part of it may be back at home base, home with a capital H. And see article number 75. Next item, that you have everything you need to enjoy an optimal earthly experience, despite no matter what your past or current circumstances. And part of that comes from knowing that you're one with the one. That is, the same power, creativity, joy, peace, love, etc. that created the cosmos resides within you. You just have to know that, tap into it, ask for assistance. Next, that you may find more peace, joy, meaning, growth, and opportunities for loving service amidst your toughest changes and challenges. So we've talked about this a bit. Conventional wisdom may say, oh, I'm so sorry you're going through these tough changes and challenges. But the enlightened, awakened person says, what an opportunity, lucky you. You have a chance now to learn a whole lot about yourself. And again, it's all great news. And the last item, that you create how heavenly or hellish your life feels, whether you're living on earth or in the next phase of life, via your predominant thoughts, words, and actions. And you can learn more about heaven and hell, what are they really, in article number 14. So these are huge. I mean, just one of these would be huge if you really knew it, how it changes your life, and there's 10 of them. So deeply knowing the great news and integrating it into your life is magnificently transformative for you, others, and our world. So to learn more, see articles number 16, called Evidence-Based Teachings About the Nature of Reality, and article number 19, The Great News. And the audio program that would help the most for this is called ART, the ART Technique, which stands for Appreciate, Realize, and Transform. So this creates more room for really knowing and internalizing the great news by learning how to have a higher energy focus about any, quote, loss in life. So instead of deeply grieving and why me and woe is me, you move into appreciation, realization, and transformation. So you can learn more about that in article number 41, and there's an audio program under deep relaxation, guided imagery to help you do that. The third key to helping yourself, others, in our world is to remember who walks beside you now and always. And much contemporary evidence validates what many ancient religions and spiritual paths have claimed, that you are one with Father, Mother, God. That is, the creator and sustainer of the cosmos is the source and is all love, joy, peace, creativity, and other higher energies. And again, you're an integral and beloved part of that. Many open-hearted people, especially as children, knew that. They felt that message from within about the light. Elders told me when they're sitting in church, especially fundamentalist churches, hearing about, on one hand, a God of love, and next, that if you're not careful, you'll burn in hell forever. And they're like, this doesn't make sense. God wouldn't act like that. My own parents wouldn't do that. We're to believe that the greatest parent, the heavenly parent, would. So vociferous fundamentalist denominations have scared and confused many people about preaching about a judgmental, angry, and punitive big guy in the sky. And that's why I call God with a small g. I got this from Joseph Campbell, whereas the true God behind the entire cosmos would be with a capital G. So many people get caught up in that. For example, believing in the God of the Old Testament, which was what a small group of people in a specific area believed about Creator. But luckily, it turns out the ground of all being is much more loving, understanding, etc. than that. So the key is to develop a personal relationship with your higher power, with how you see Creator. And that helps you reject those fear-based teachings and know how very much you are loved, understood, and assisted. Again, you're going to understand how that's such a key to this course. For more information, see articles number 13, What is God Really Like? 100, Enlightenment, and number 83, Am I a Christian? And my audio technique called Ask Your Soul, which is described in article number 71, helps you expand your relationships with angels and God. The entire title for this audio program is Ask Your Soul, Angels, and the Light. And so again, deep relaxation, guided imagery, and asking questions, and then giving you space to see what wise answers pop up from within and from them. So a wonderful technique for expanding your relationship with the divine, all that is. The fourth key to helping yourself, others, and our world is to identify and share your greatest gifts. You came to Earth with special talents to share. Some Native American tribes call it your giveaway. And life flows a lot better for you when you're sharing that, when you're doing what you came here to do. And of course, it blesses and helps so many other people. Not knowing and sharing your greatest gifts can create boredom, fatigue, depression, and other signs of creative discontent. So it's a triple win when you know and share. That helps create higher energies for you, emotions and ways of being, which again have eternal benefits for yourself and others. They create an upward versus a downward spiral. Good clinical evidence indicates that your essence, the totality of your energy, isn't limited to just this earthly incarnation. Put another way, your life force is likely manifesting in other space-time dimensions simultaneously as while you're on Earth. So the question then arises, why did part of your life energy, who you really are, volunteer to visit Earth at this time? It's an extremely important question, and one that I encourage you to explore and answer to your satisfaction. The short answer is to love, to serve others, to have adventures, to grow, learn, and enjoy. But to learn more about how to identify and fulfill your highest missions, see article number 21 and also my audio program with that same title, Identify and Fulfill Your Purpose and Enjoy Your Greatest Life, because those are so tied together. To learn more about multi-location or simultaneous reality, see article number 75. The fifth key to helping yourself, others, and our world is to fine-tune yourself holistically. It's very difficult to let your light shine brightly when you're ill, fatigued, disabled, depressed, etc., as so many people are these days, and there are good reasons for it. But the good news is that the great majority of these symptoms, syndromes, diseases are preventable, or if they've already gotten a foothold, they're treatable, reversible with natural methods. That's why it's so important to care for the temple of your soul that takes you from womb to tomb and try to prevent these things. Your total self, as we've discussed, is much more than this human form. but a healthy body and brain is very helpful for you to have a magnificent adventure and do all that you came here to do. I wrote a book called Radiant Wellness, a holistic guide for optimal earthly experiences, and it shares my insights and knowledge after helping many, many people in different healthcare settings for over 50 years. Now, fine-tuning yourself holistically is especially important if you're more sensitive or empathic and evolved. Let me make that more clear. If you're a more advanced soul, intermediate level of soul development, your energy, then that means that you likely are more aware, which means more sensitive. Perhaps you can feel the feelings of others, and people who are sappers and zappers can affect your energy. Likewise, you probably will have to eat a more healthy diet and take care of yourself or pay for it. Because you have more advanced energies, it's like you're driving a fine sports car around versus a more beginner soul. It has more like an old jalopy, so it's not as noticeable when they don't take care of themselves because their car is already a wreck anyway. So to learn more about that, see articles number 23, Are You More Evolved and Sensitive / Empathic? Number 7117, You Might Be More Evolved If. And then general articles on this topic, that is how to fine-tune yourself holistically, include number 12, Holistically Fine-Tuning Yourself, number 64, Drugs, Alcohol, and Greater Reality Living, number 87, about natural health care, and 88, the whole food way of eating and supplements. You also can use the Ask Your Soul, Angels in the Light technique to go within, to quiet your brain and access your and their inner wisdom about what changes would be wisest to make, keeping in mind that you can't change everything overnight. This is an incremental process. So your inner self knows what are the priorities, what should you do first, second, or third, and then once you have those established as habits and you're picking up more energy, clarity, joy, peace from those changes, then you can implement some others. The sixth key is to relax, rest, recharge, and revitalize yourself. People get so busy on Earth and they think they don't have time to relax and enjoy, and I've certainly been guilty of that. But it's important, actually, you'll get more done if you do take time to recharge yourself. The cumulative emotional, mental, and physical stress can diminish your personal energy and power, and then that can lead to diseases, illnesses, mental symptoms, etc., and prevent you from being the force in the world that you came here to be. Also, too much exposure to negative, sensationalistic, and skewed news sources can make you feel hopeless and helpless, can drain your energy. So that's why it's important to take breaks, revitalize yourself, and as stated, the extra time and lowered stress will provide more effectiveness, clarity, and well-being. To learn more about this key, see articles number 51, Meditation, Yoga, and Relaxation, number 77, Centering Practices, and number 110, the 5 R's for Life's Changes and Challenges. Again, you can use the Ask Your Soul, Angels in the Light technique to go within to better discern your inner wisdom and theirs, to consider how could you best rest, recharge, relax, so that you're at full speed. So that's enough for this second video. I'll be back with video number 3 and the 7th key to helping yourself, others, in our world. Thank you for sharing with others, and let it shine.